Hi, how are you doing tonight? My name's Dina Cataldo, and I am the owner of Sicilian Tea Company. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about blending teas and spices and herbs. I don't know about you, but I used to be intimidated by using spices and herbs, and I knew that cooking with them would be healthier, it would be good for me, but I kept putting it off because I just wasn't raised using lots of spices and herbs in my cooking. And I really got interested in using spices and herbs when I was diagnosed with breast cancer because I knew that they had a lot of great antioxidants and lots of great healthy things that I needed to have in my body and in my diet, and they just weren't there. So in order to push myself past being intimidated, I started blending herbs and spices with loose leaf teas. And when I did that, I realized that I could play around and not feel like I was tied to anything. I just kind of threw things together, started sipping, started, measuring, started writing things down, and I realized that it was fun. And so that's why I started blending my own tea blends. And that's also why I started teaching a tea and spice blending class. So I am bringing a taste of that to you here tonight, and I've also created a free guide that I give to my tea blending students. And if you go to the website that I've posted along with this video, you can get that free guide there. It'll have recipes to get you started. It will have a step-by-step guide telling you exactly how to do things. It'll also give you a primer on the different teas. It'll also give you some descriptions of some herbs and spices that you may want to try in some of your tea blending experiments. So tonight what I want to do is just walk you through the recipe that's in the blog. I actually do a little twist on the recipe that I've written in the blog. If you go to the link, you can find it there. And we're going to walk step by step through a single blend. So you can go back to this video, you can take a look at it and see exactly what's going on. You can also write any questions that you have in this video, and I will come back and I will answer them for you, because it's not something that a lot of us do because we're going to need to use math. We're going to need to kind of think through what is going to taste good with something else. You also have to have a little bit of an understanding on how long you can brew things. So for instance, if you're new to tea, then black teas are teas that you can brew just a little bit longer. They're going to be richer, they're going to have a more robust flavor, which is a good thing if you want to create a blend that is spicy, that is really strong. So for instance, that's why chais, the traditional Indian masala chais, they are blended with things like cinnamon and cloves, those kinds of really strong, like ginger root, those kinds of really strong, robust herbs and spices are going to pair really well with black tea, because you also need to heat those stronger, thicker roots, like licorice root and ginger root. They're going to need a little bit more heat. They're going to need a little bit more time to steep in order to extract all of their flavors. So they pair really nicely with a black tea like that. And then on the other hand, you have more delicate teas like white teas that maybe you don't brew at such high temperatures. And so you want to pair those with herbs and spices that don't need so much time or so much heat to extract the flavors. So tonight we're going to talk about one that's more on the lighter side, and then we can just kind of play around. The recipes that are in the guide that are in the link that I talked to you about that are linked with this post, they're going to give you all kinds of different ideas. Caffeinated drinks, caffeine-free drinks. You don't need to use tea in the blends that I'm talking about tonight. You can make like what we're going to make tonight, which is a chamomile blend, and it's going to be a citrus chamomile blend. You can create your own blends using red rooibos or honeybush tea and just kind of add things in. So I want you to feel free. I want you to play, because there's really no rules. What I'm giving you tonight are just guidelines. And it's important to know the guidelines so that way you can play around. As long as you know what those guidelines are and what you're doing to deviate from them, you're okay. All right? So let me talk to you a little bit first about the tools. So first, let's talk about exactly what you're going to need. You're going to need some herbs and spices. You can grab some from your cabinet. You can get them at the local grocery store. You're going to need some loose leaf teas, and you're going to need some little receptacles to put them in. And what I like to use for my very first batch, when I'm just testing one cup of tea to see if I even like it, is just this little cup. And so I'll put the ingredients in a cup, and then after I've blended it, then what I'm going to do is heat the water and just pour it in and see if I even like it. If I don't like it, that's okay. I've only put in a little bit of ingredients, a little bit of time, and I'll move on to the next blend. So the next thing that you're going to want to make sure that you have is a note card with a pencil, because you're going to be taking notes as you go along. You want to be sure you do this because you don't want to be in a position where you find this amazing creation and you forgot to write it down. So be sure that you write everything down. You're going to need a teaspoon, and you're going to need a 1/8 teaspoon, and let me tell you why. So the recipe that I'm going to talk to you about today and the recipes that I have in the guidebook at the link that I've been talking about, they all start with one place, and that is 2 total teaspoons per 8 ounces of water. So everything that we're talking about is always going to come back to, when you have an 8-ounce cup of water, how much tea are you going to need in there? And when I talk about tea, I mean the whole tea blend. And I want 2 total. 1 teaspoon is going to be my base blend. So if I want to use a black tea blend, I'm going to use 1 teaspoon. If I want a chamomile blend, I'm going to use 1 teaspoon. And then I want to create a total of 1 teaspoon worth of herbs and spices to complement that 1 teaspoon base. So for instance, tonight what I'm going to do is I'm going to add up a total amount of ingredients that are going to equal 1 teaspoon, right? So it's going to be a 1/4 teaspoon of orange peel, a 1/4 teaspoon of lemon peel, and 1/8 teaspoon of, tonight it's going to be grapefruit peel, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of stevia leaf. So that will equal a total of, let's see, that's 1/2 and then 1/4 teaspoon. So then I want to add one more. I'm going to have 1 more 1/8 of stevia. So that is going to equal a total of 1 teaspoon. So let's get started. Okay, so I have my receptacle. I put in my base, which is the 1 teaspoon of chamomile. And then I'm going to put in a 1/4 teaspoon of the lemon peel, and I'm going to put in another 1/4 teaspoon, this time of the orange peel, and I've got the stevia leaf, and I also have the grapefruit peel, and all of that is going to equal 2 teaspoons in my cup. And then what I would do is I would use my Bruin mug or whatever steeping tool I'm using, and I brew it. For this particular kind of blend, I wouldn't use boiling water. I'd use something that's a little off boiling, and I'd let it sit for a few minutes. And the best part about this is you just get to play. So you can brew it as long as you want, and you can make it as strong as you want or as delicate as you want. It's up to you. The important thing is to always come back to that measurement, because you want to be consistent. If you want to create bigger batches so you can create a gift, you want to make sure that you are creating something that is you can duplicate. So for instance, everything that I have written down for my recipe can be multiplied. And in this particular case, I want to make 10 cups of it. So how do I do that? I go through it line by line, and I multiply everything by 10. I know there's a little bit of math involved, but it's really not that bad. So if I want the 10 whole cups, I'm going to use 10 teaspoons of chamomile, right? So that's my base. And then I'm going to take the 1/4 teaspoon of the orange peel, and I'm going to multiply that by 10, and it's 2.5 teaspoons, and so on and so forth. So you're just going to keep multiplying down the line. And if you want those exact amounts, just go to the blog, and it lists everything for you, okay? So It's really simple once you get started, but I want to talk to you a little bit about things to think about when you are starting to get these herbs and spices together so you can start your blending fun. So the way I like to think about herbs and spices is kind of in categories. So I think of them in categories like floral and spicy. I think of them in citrus, and I think of them in these rich flavors like vanilla bean or cacao nibs. So let's start with floral. When I think of floral, you get all the typical stuff, right? You have lavender and chamomile and rosebuds, those kinds of flowery herbs, different flowers, right? Then you get into your citrus. You have lemon peel, grapefruit peel, orange peel, all the different dried peels which give that citrus essence to anything you're going to blend. And then you also get into things that are a little more spicy. So you have cloves and allspice and cinnamon. Sometimes you can get even like some peppermint in there. I consider that kind of like a spicy kind of flavor. Could also be in a more floral flavor. It just kind of depends on what you like and how it is that your taste buds taste things. Because every single person is going to taste something differently. So something that you like, maybe I don't like, and maybe something I like, you won't like. When I think of things that are rich, like the chocolatey flavors of like a cacao nib or the vanilla bean, those are things that add some really delicious layerings of flavor. So once I kind of have an idea of what I like, that's when you can start buying things. And maybe you want to go to the grocery store and just kind of look and see what they have. There's also some resources that I've put in that guide that I've been referencing. So go to the link and get the guide, and there's also some ways, some places that you can get these things. Just, you can look online, you can kind of Google it and just look at different spices and you can see what's out there. There are a lot of things that are out there that you may not have even thought of. Things like hibiscus petals that are kind of like a bitter taste to them. And the guide that I've been talking about goes through a lot of those different herbs and spices and gives you a little bit of their flavor profile. And once you're familiar with these flavor profiles, once you have these different areas kind of thought out, this floral areas that I've been talking about, the citrus areas, then you can start thinking about, okay, what would those taste good? What would those taste good with? For me, I think of the richer flavors, like the spicy flavors and the chocolatey flavors, the vanilla, as tasting really good with black teas. But it doesn't mean that they won't taste very good with a rooibos. That sounds delicious too. That will take that has like a cinnamony profile to it. So blending those with a rooibos would also be delicious. And one of the things that you want to think about is how long you're going to have to steep those richer, harder spices because a cinnamon is going to need more intense heat. It's going to need a longer steeping time to extract the flavors than a rose petal would. Okay, so you've got your black teas with something that's richer, and let's say you have your white teas that take less time to brew, or your green teas, or your oolongs even. Those take less time to brew, so you want to pair them with something that maybe doesn't take as long to brew. Those might taste really well with something like a floral, like a lavender or rose petals, those kinds of things. I would also put them together just like I did here. I would pair a white tea with the different citrus peels that we've been talking about, because I don't think it takes that long to extract the flavor from those citrus peels. But you got to play with it. Maybe you don't taste it, maybe you feel like it just doesn't taste good enough. So this is your time to play. So what I would like you to do is to go to that link and find that guidebook, because in the guidebook you're going to get a lot of instruction that it will take you step by step through everything we've gone through here and give you even more. And if you're brand new to tea, it's also going to give you that guide to tea so you can learn what all the different teas taste like, get a little bit of ideas of their flavor profile, how long it takes to brew them, how long or how hot the water should be when you brew them. And when you kind of have an idea of what those teas taste like and how long it takes to brew them, then you can start playing with all the different herbs and spices. And once you start doing that, you're going to see just how much fun it is and just how easy it is. I've also discovered that once I started learning these different profiles, playing with them, that I started adding them more to my food. So things like allspice or cloves, I am less nervous to use them because I understand that a little goes a long way. For instance, like a clove, you don't want to have too much of that in any tea because you are going to add a lot of too much of it makes your mouth numb. So you want to play around with it with the tea so you're not ruining your food later. You can always play around with these with tea. It's much easier, it's much less expensive, and much less time consuming. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much. Go to the website, get the guide, and click like on this, and I will see you next week.